it's really about giving yourself that self-respect,
Yeah.
because then you are less likely to start picking yourself apart the rest of the day. At least that's my experience. So
Everybody, it's your host, Amber here, MLM strategist and entrepreneur who has worked with thousands of network marketers and influencers and entrepreneurs in your space, helping to brand them, systemize them, and grow their downline on a global level. Creative director with AK Social House and your host of the Behind Her Boom podcast, providing you with proven, simple, and actionable steps to build your authority and your brand so you can stand out from those sideline sisters. Inspiring you with our special guest to think big and grow to 7 figures and beyond. Let's go.
Hey everybody, it's your host Amber on another episode of the Behind Her Boom podcast, coming to you with another saint, a beauty artist, influencer, fantastic fashionista. She's drop dead gorgeous. We're going to dive into some heavy topics here. It's Colette Van Pamel. I will drop the spelling of her social on this podcast so that you guys can reach out, connect with her if you're not already. But thank you so much, Colette, for being on the show. How are you doing?
thank you. I'm great. I'm honored that you asked.
Perfect. Well, I'm excited to have you on here. I know we're going to get into some topics and conversation, a lot around sort of that age range group of like, kind of, is there a cap to being on social media in a certain age, or is there a cap to, I can't look this good, can't wear the short skirts, can't put on all my makeup, do my hair, get the extensions, all those things. Is it just for
Right.
the 20-year-olds? We were kind of talking before because I said I had turned 40 this year and I felt like 40 was the new 30. I was a little afraid. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm almost, getting to midlife. But like, I feel like I have way more energy. I feel more fantastic. I feel like I even look better than I did when I was in my 30s. So age is just a number. So tell me a little bit about you and your story and your journey. How did you get into Saint, into the beauty industry? Is that something that you've always followed? What's your
Well,
story?
yeah, it's definitely something I've always followed. I always tried to follow along with like YouTube videos, all the YouTube influencers, and I'd try, but I'm not a makeup artist, and I would try to kind of follow along, and it was always a disaster, but I never gave up trying. And I've always enjoyed makeup and, you know, hair and beauty and all kinds of feminine things. So, no, it's not something that I was involved in like career wise ever.
No,
So,
you didn't go to
yeah.
beauty school or anything like that.
I did actually go to beauty school, but I went to be a nail technician. And of course, I don't have any nails on today, but normally I always do.
Right.
And I figured out quickly I didn't like doing that. So,
That. So
yeah.
what kind of year, at what point did you get into to Saint? And because your social media is just blowing up right now. And I always say I look at the numbers, but then I always look at like momentum, and your stuff is real. You've got a lot going on. You've built a massive community on your social media. So, and I always tell people that doesn't happen overnight either. So at what point did you get into social media and start showing up and feeling like that's your platform?
Well, I became an artist with Saint in 2018, August 2018. And for the first couple of months, I was scared to death to even show my face in a photo on social media. So, I had no social media presence or inclination on how to use it. But a few months into kind of meeting with people in person and putting the makeup on them and seeing like their faces literally light up when they see the difference between like what they've been using in the past and the 3D foundation, I was like, I can only do so many in-person things, right? I can only reach so many people like belly to belly, so to speak. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to get over my own self, get over my fear, and really start to put myself out there. So it was about 3 months in. It was after one of my best friends was like, Colette, if you're not gonna do it, don't do it, but you got to quit talking about it. Like, shit or get off the pot, because I don't want to hear about it anymore. So I finally was like, okay. I went live for the first time. I didn't die, scared to death,
So
but
scary, right?
it's so scary and I don't know why,
And there's
but
usually nobody watching when you go live, like in the very
I
beginning.
know, which is actually a benefit. People are usually afraid, like, well, what if nobody watches? And be like, terrific, because then you've got some great practice time, right? Um, So I just really pushed myself to get over that fear because I knew that the potential to reach so many more women
Right.
was out there.
Yeah.
And, to your point, it's a slow grow. I mean, I'm sure there are some people who are quote unquote overnight successes on social media. But that was not my experience. Mine was I got up every day and I had a full-time job at the time and kind of weaved it into the pockets of my life, started sharing a lot of my life, kind of behind the scenes in stories. And quite honestly, I think that's what really resonated more with people.
Yeah.
Uh, I always went at it like I'm just going to be who I am. It's just so much easier to be who you are than to try to pretend to be something you're not.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, I have attracted people who are like more like myself, which is kind of the whole goal. So, yeah.
It's Amber here, creative director with AK Social House, coming to you in a quick break in between this awesome podcast. Wanted to ask you a quick question. If you're in the network marketing space and you are struggling to grow your business on a global level and you are lacking the brand that needs to help you set yourself apart from your sideline sisters, and you are struggling or don't even have a system in place to automate your follow-up to give you back time so that you can have that ultimate time freedom, make sure that you click on the link somewhere in this podcast and book a free demo call with myself or one of our strategists. AK Social House has worked with hundreds of network marketers just like you, and we have worked with some of the top influencers in your space. So book a free demo and find out exactly why top income earners are coming to AK Social House to create the hybrid system to help them grow and scale at a global level. Okay, back to you, Amber, and back to this awesome podcast.
You've found your tribe in that sort of sense, because I think a lot of people, they get kind of caught up in what's this person doing, what's that person doing, and I need to do it so perfectly, or I need to do it that way. But showing up, even if it's a hot mess, showing up, authentically you're
Yeah.
right. It is going to attract the type of people that you want to have in your team as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you've done a slow grow there. When we talked, we got really kind of in the beginning into the age range of things, because your main focus is women over 50.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so where do you see that fitting in? Do you get a lot of women that have like very little following and they just think like, this is not for me? I can't be out here putting on my makeup. Like, how do you have that conversation with those women?
It's not something I've ever really pushed. With my business, I've just really focused on creating a relationship and nurturing those relationships with women, whether they bought the makeup or not. And as a result of that, I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of the women kind of approach me about what I do and what it's all about. But I will say that the number one thing, the number one fear or objection, so to speak, is that they don't want to put their face on camera.
Yeah.
And you can certainly build a very successful network marketing business old school. It's
Yeah.
just probably a lot harder to do.
Take a lot more time.
Um, so that's still a struggle. That's because there are so many women incredibly talented, incredibly capable, regardless of their age, but that fear of putting themselves out there and presenting themselves to people just scares the shit out of them. And I get it because that was me.
Yeah.
And the difference, I guess, between myself and some other people is that I will put myself in those situations. I'll do it scared. I'll do it anyway because I understand what's on the other side of that. So I really just kind of try to have that conversation, and sometimes I mean it always resonates with them, but it doesn't always mean that they're willing
Yeah. So
to
you get out there
do
and
it.
actually do
Yeah,
it.
so it's tough and it makes me really, really sad,
Yeah.
honestly. And it's not just with regard to my business, it's with regard to everything in life. There are so many women my age, well, any age really, but specifically what's considered middle age, 40 plus. Um, Women just think, and I was this person too, that, well, wherever I am by the time I'm 40 or 50, that's it. It's best it's ever going to get, right? I'm never going to be able to
Math.
do that, the other thing. And I have found that I thought that too until I found this opportunity. And it is, I tell people it's changed my life. And I know that sounds so cliche, everything changes everybody's life, but the trajectory of my life has done a complete 180. I was in really bad mental space prior to that because I was thinking all those things. Like I don't feel accomplished in anything
Mhm.
specific. Raised a family. I have a great husband. I have a great house and all of that kind of thing, all that kind of stuff. And it was never about money, but I never felt that sense of pride that, um, that
In
I wanted
yourself, like what you're doing for
for
yourself.
what
Yeah.
I'm doing. For, I remember getting the very first paycheck from my little makeup business, that everybody probably thought was so cute in the beginning. And it was only like, a couple $100, but I was like, I did that, like I did that start to finish. Nobody helped me. Nobody, handed me anything. And it was that sense of pride, I think, that just kept me going. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I think it's important. I mean, when you talk about that age group, it's kind of a whole different ball game because even when you get past 40, well, I say 40 is the new 30. If I would have stopped doing what I was doing in my 30s, I would have never grown into what we have now. And it's just more and more ideas. I feel like as you get a little bit older, you surround yourself with bigger and better, more wiser people, and you start growing and scaling even more. So things are just 10xing and it's like a ripple effect.
yeah,
So you can't slow down just because of your age. If anything, you got to speed up and say, well, I got limited time. Like, what else can I do to make an impact and start moving faster? But I think once you hit that 50 plus, you get in that sort of like that empty nester stage. Now, we're looking closer to retirement. The kids are no longer, school aged or toddler age. They're getting into like college. And now you're getting into like these empty homes of like, where's all the noise? Where's all the chaos? Oh my God, my husband's, is he going to retire soon and drive me crazy? I've had these conversations with women more like in their 60s, and then there's that age category where they're like bored. Then they just feel this sense of, I don't know what else to do with my life. And I don't have I'm not a dog mom to go share my dogs, or I'm not a baby mom to go and share my, like, what else am I sharing? Nobody's going to care about me and my story on social media. And I'm always telling them, well, yeah, because there's other women just like you that don't have the dog, that don't have the pet, or maybe the fancy house or whatever, but they're probably just sitting home and maybe their husband's out for a game of golf and they're driving them crazy. Go on and talk about that. It's just
yeah,
having that
yeah,
community, right? Building that
yeah,
relationship of like-minded people. And you can grow off of
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
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 Um, like you were saying, it just 10x's everything as far as once you put yourself out there and you do start making those connections, you have no idea what those connections will lead to. We're talking about my friend Jen, like I had no idea that it would ever turn out that she would come work with me, but we developed a friendship based on commonalities. And even for just, my general, I guess I hate saying audience, I guess, so to speak, but we connect on so many levels, so many things, and they really feel like they know me. And I really feel like I know a lot of them. And for some of them, I'll get messages and they'll say, what you said today, you have no idea that I needed to hear that, or it was like you were speaking directly to me. Those kind of messages are like the icing on the cake.
Yeah. Like
It's
what you're
really
driving.
incredible because you don't know what somebody else needs. You have no way of knowing. So all you can do is present your best self, be as authentic as you possibly can, be very vulnerable. That is something that I am. I share the good, the bad, the really ugly. I
I
show,
need to start sharing more ugly, more bad and more ugly for sure.
I mean, I shouldn't say ugly because we're all about positivity as far as your body goes and all that stuff. But, everybody has those feelings and it's okay. And I did a reel the other day that showed me literally when I got up. I mean, I look like Medusa. My hair's, matted to my head. I was talking about how I always feel the most negative toward myself as soon as I get up and go into the bathroom and look in the mirror. I'm just like, that's when you start going, oh my God, Colette, you're so ugly. Why, you got, oh, what is that? You start picking yourself apart first thing in the morning, right? Which can easily set the tone for the rest of the day. But I just put it out there. I was like, this is how I feel in the morning, and I would venture to say that most women probably feel that way too. But once I take a shower and I blow dry my hair and I throw on a little bit of makeup and put some real clothes on, which I'm guilty of not, putting anything more than sweats on, it really does change your mood, your outlook. You stop picking
100%.
yourself apart because maybe you've concealed a few of the things that you don't love, but you've also enhanced your eyes and, added color to your lips. Those little things have the power to change so much. And I know it's hard. You get stuck in a rut of what seems comfortable. It's like, oh, I don't want to get out of my sweats. Oh, I don't feel like washing my hair. I don't want to, take 2 minutes, put some makeup on. But it's really about giving yourself that self-respect,
Yeah,
because then you are less likely to start picking yourself apart the rest of the day. At least that's my experience. So
I
I've
agree.
really started putting a lot of that like truth. I mean, I've always been kind of that way, but even more so now. I'm like, women need to know that just because you show up looking pretty because I do all this makeup and stuff, that's
Yeah.
not the reality. That's not
Not
what's
waking up
going
like
on.
that.
Yeah, and nobody wakes up like that, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think being vulnerable is especially important
Yeah.
in business. In
And
business.
business too. Yeah.
Mhm.
I agree. I mean, you can't, well, I also think too, just since COVID, everybody working from home, they've all gotten so comfortable of like, yeah, I work from home in my sweats. If I got to go on a Zoom call, I'll just put on a nice top and keep my sweats on or my pajamas,
Yeah,
even worse. And so it's so easy to get in that rut of like, I'm going to live in a mom bun. I'm just not going to, to have a shower. I'll skip this day. And I've even myself, I work from home, but I do have an assistant that works with me full time. And she comes into my house. Sometimes she'll come rolling in her sweats, like, just roll, like she's rolling out of bed. I'm like, I know it's just a house, but we are not going to do this. We're not doing it. I'm like, it's an energy thing, right? Like we're going to
yes.
dress, we're going to put a little bit of makeup and, do your hair or at least wash it, those kind of things, because you're going to sit down with a different level of energy. And if anybody underestimates that, it can be a game changer, whether you're just working your day job or you're, being home with your kids or you're running your business. You'll run your business on a totally different energy spell, being showered, being activated, and having, a bit of a face on your hair done versus just getting out of bed. Like when some people show me like a laptop in their bed, this is where I work my day job. Get off your ass and go to work already. Like to the
Yeah.
living room or like find a chair. There's no way you could be productive laying in bed like this in your bun and your pajamas, in sweat.
No.
Just, it kind of boggles my mind because I also feel that energy is transmitted even through the phone. So if I'm sending a DM or a voice note, if I'm laying down in bed, like, hey, Colette, how are you doing? Versus like being up walking around, maybe I just did a couple of jumping jacks, like, hey,
Yeah.
Colette, up. It's totally different. And you're going to feed off of that. So you got
Yeah.
to show up, ladies.
I
Even if you're
am never productive when I have sweatpants on and I've not done anything but brush my teeth for the day.
I agree.
Never. I will spend more time roaming around the house aimlessly than actually being fired. Like you said, the word activated. I love that. It's like you've got to activate yourself. And that's kind of like the on switch, right? Is
Yeah.
kind of doing a little bit of self-care and grooming. The other thing that happens at my age, probably not so much in your 40s. You haven't maybe experienced any of this yet, but there is a lot of backlash toward women like myself who are over 40, I mean over 50, and do these things. It's looked it's looked upon as though you are not embracing aging
Right.
or aging gracefully, whatever the heck that is supposed to mean,
Like
or
what,
that you're not
like we
pro
know.
age. So it's really this like whole double-edged sword. Like everybody says, love yourself, take care of yourself, but not too much. We don't want you to take care of yourself too much. We don't want you to look too good. We don't want you to look like you put effort into looking good, So that's another thing that I really address a lot in my social media.
Right.
So I just think it's insane. It's insane how, and it's other women placing those judgments on other women, which I find to be appalling. But
Yeah. To not have each other's back. Do you find you get even comments? Like, do you get negative
oh,
comments? Yeah. Wow.
I
I think,
will say it's 95% just really awesome
yeah,
women.
it's always got to be somebody.
There's always going to be somebody, but it's just alarming when we're living in this era of women empowerment. We're supposed to be living in this women empowerment. Um,
Lift each
if
other
if
up
a
sort of
guy
thing.
said that, who cares? But another woman, it cuts a little different because it's like, really, why would you ever, if you wouldn't come up to me in the grocery store and say that, why would you ever think it
Yeah.
appropriate to type it out, you know?
Same thing.
Um, so there's definitely that side of it, but it also intrigues me because I'm really always thinking about why. What is it? Why is there this disconnect between what we've always done as women? We've always done our hair. I mean, not everybody, but generally speaking, women love feeling feminine.
Yeah.
Women like to feel sexy and pretty and beautiful. And for some reason, we've got it in our head that there's a cutoff date. There's an expiration date where you wake up and you're just like, oh,
No more
shoot.
heels, no more
No,
makeup.
well, yeah, I mean, unless you've got a physical um reason that you can't wear heels or makeup or whatever it is, like nobody's there's no deadline. There's no
Yeah.
expiration date. Like I still love those things. That's like telling me that I have to stop reading because my eyesight's getting bad,
Right.
So
Yeah.
I
Right.
improvise with eyeglasses. So it just makes no sense to me, but it does intrigue me.
Yeah, yeah, it would, because we're supposed to lift each other and empower each other and not bring each other down. I think some people can have a little bit too much to say. I
Yeah.
mean, even my dad, he's dead against Botox. So my mom will be like, "Don't be saying anything about." I'm like, "Mom, I'm 40, and if I don't, I have a happy face on my forehead. I can't go out and shoot content with a happy face on my forehead. All these like little waves. I don't believe I believe in keeping everything look the way that it is, but I feel like I've done microblading because that enhanced. I had no eyebrows. I've done some Botox. I could use a little lip filler. That's like my next phase. I want to do, and I'm getting extensions in like 3 more weeks.
Ooh,
So
I
I'm like
love my
counting down the
extensions.
days. I cannot
Love
wait.
it.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
get it, get it. And then my sister's like, well, you should go brown back to your natural color and then get extensions. I'm like, hell no. I was like, this will give my hair a break from all the blonde, and I'm gonna go full on blonde extension. I'm getting 3 rows.
Oh my God, that is
So
so exciting.
I
Yeah,
can't
I
wait.
took I took my extensions out for about a year and I went to like using toppers or clip-ins or whatever. I even did
Right,
wigs for a while with Raquel Welch, but ultimately it still just didn't feel like me and my hair was never going to grow to the point where I liked it and felt comfortable in it. It was never going to be thick enough, and
right.
especially as I age, that declines typically. I got my extensions back in like in 2021. I'm like, I am never taking these
Taking
out
them
again
out.
ever because it was like instantaneously felt like Colette again. Like I'm like,
Right.
this is just who I am. And
Yeah.
you're talking about not wanting to show up if you haven't had your Botox. And what people don't understand is they'll say like, well, you should just we all get wrinkles, you should just embrace it. But the fact of the matter is that if you were feeling self-conscious about that,
Yeah.
you are not going to show up as the very best version of yourself like you are right now.
Yeah.
Like if you don't do those things, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks is, Botox is bad, it's this, it's that, it's fake. I get that a lot. Everything's fake.
Right.
But ultimately the goal is to do what you have to do to show up as your best self
Yeah. Your
because you
best
wouldn't
self for
be
your
doing what
audience.
you're doing right now
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
you
and
did.
I can see a huge difference if I was to show up and be like, yeah, I can see, oh my God, I can see the wrinkles. That's all I'm thinking of. My husband will be like, think about the content. Was it good content? I'm like, I know the content's great, but I could redo the content, with like looking a little better. Or even the hair. I had a bad, I mean, it looks great today, but I had a double bleaching session done. She done one, and then I went and shot some content and it was almost two-tone. And I said, oh my gosh, it's like almost like gray beige under here.
Yeah.
So I went back to her like 3 days later and she redid it with a toner. Well, within 2 months, the hair was breaking off. Like I never cut it up to here. My hair has been like down almost like boob length, and it's constantly shrinking. And I'm telling my husband,
Yeah.
don't get extensions, there'll be nothing left. So it's
Yeah.
completely fine. So now I feel the extensions are going to save me, but it's also just an excuse to just like go and get my extensions.
Yeah.
So but I
Yeah.
feel a little afraid of the extensions. Like I feel like I'm gonna feel like I'm all hair. Like no one else will probably realize that. They'll just be like, oh, great extensions. But to me, in my head, I'll feel like I'm walking around
Yeah.
like a pony or something, or like a mermaid. And
No, I mean,
over.
I don't know what kind you're getting. I get the invisible bead extensions, and I honestly forget that I even have extensions. You'll get
That's
used
what
to
I'm.
them,
That's what
there'll
I'm
be an
hoping.
adjustment
Don't feel
period,
the
but
weight. Yeah,
you definitely have more hair than I actually do. So,
I can hide
um,
them. Like I'll get the rows in, and you won't see them or anything. So
no, 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 no. It's gonna be great. You're gonna love them for sure.
I'm very excited. I'm actually we're in Orange County, so I have a client who is a creator of extensions, of natural beaded row hair extensions.
Mm,
So she's in Laguna Beach, Danielle
hmm
Kiwi. She has like her own
hmm
salon. And
I
then
remember seeing her when I was looking at getting them.
getting them, so the
Yeah,
DKB styling. So
yeah,
all of her girls is like the natural beaded rose. So she's a client of mine. We've been working for almost a year together, do all their podcasts from our media side. So I'm investing in her brand since they've invested in us. And now her hair is always fantastic. I mean, she went
yeah,
from blonde to her back to her natural hair. But every
yeah,
Monday that I see her, I'm just like, you're just constantly reminding me of like, this is what I need. That's like the whole new vibe that I need. So I'm
yeah.
finally taking the plunge on
Well, I
doing it.
can't wait to see. You're gonna have to send me a picture. I want to see them.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. Well, so tell me, Colette, what's kind of your ultimate goal or your next kind of few years of what you see in your path? Because you've been now with Saint for over 5 years? Over,
Yeah. Yep, it'll be 6 years in August. So yeah.
okay,
Um, I've really focused a lot on my team in the last year.
right.
So I've put a lot of emphasis on growing my team, and I'm really proud of the fact that we have I have about 450 team members right now.
Oh,
And
wow.
I would say that 90% of them are women over for sure 40 and mostly over 50. And even within my team as well and within Saint, what's really interesting to me and what I love so much is that each month when we see the top sales numbers or top, people that are bringing team members on and that kind of thing, the women who are crushing it right now are the women who are over 50,
Wow.
the
You guys
majority.
freaking go. Yeah.
So it just feels so good. I knew when I started with Saint, I remember having very specific conversations because at that time I was one of a handful of women who were 50 years old doing, makeup with Saint. And I had this inkling. I just knew that at some point it was going to hit the mature women market and just explode, and it has. So I'm just really enjoying watching both sides of that, it reaching the masses with customers and getting the word out to women that there really is truly a different uh kind of makeup that is going to change the game for you. Women don't necessarily believe it, but once they get their hands on it, they do. But even after being with Saint for almost 6 years, anywhere I go and somebody starts to ask me what I do and I explain about the makeup, nobody's ever heard of it still. And I'm like, there is such, I mean, there is an
Not amazing.
ocean of women in my age bracket that has still never heard of it and still never experienced it. So that's part of the plan, you know, in the next few years to just really do whatever I can to get the word out because I know the physical transformation obviously is incredible, but it's the mental transformation that it provides that I think is what women need
The
more.
moms. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
because it
think,
was the reason, and I say this all the time, it was the vehicle that put me where I am or into what I'm doing right now. Without that, without having that first physical transformation with the makeup, and when I say transformation, I don't mean like you look like a different person. It's
yeah,
just a different way of seeing yourself when you're wearing makeup that is actually meant to be on a mature woman's skin. And then it leads into the mental transformation. You start to
yeah,
believe things that you maybe didn't believe about yourself before.
that's
So,
the game changer
yeah,
right there. That's
yeah,
it's not the makeup of, oh, I feel pretty or I didn't feel pretty. It's what it does internally when you feel your best and you look your best.
yeah,
It's an internal game changer. That's exactly what it is.
yeah.
And you have so much more impact to give. And you guys are growing into Australia this year, Mexico,
And the UK,
UK.
yep, yeah.
So yeah, it's an infinite
But
amount
there's
of,
still too many women in America who don't know we exist yet.
right?
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you're not going anywhere. You have a lot of work to do. You have a
God, I
lot,
have
a
so
lot
much
of,
work to do, but I
lot of
love it.
people. Yeah.
I will say, back when I had like a traditional job, so to speak, that because
Right.
I personally never cared for any job I ever had. And people used to say, you know, find something you love to do. You never work a day in your life. And I'm like, oh, whatever. You know, you're like, okay, like, but this is it. Like I finally understand what they're talking about. Doesn't mean everything's great and rosy all the time, but I love my job. I love what I do.
Do you ever, because you do have such a huge following and there's a lot of momentum, so now you've built such a community where people are waiting for you, like they're waiting and relying on you to show up. So do you ever feel the pressure of that, of like, oh, I'm just not in the mood today, but I got to turn it on?
I wouldn't say I will turn it on. I think that what I do instead of feeling like I have to turn it on, yeah, it is a lot of pressure. It can be a lot of pressure to feel like you have to be on all the time. But honestly, when you decide that you are just going to be yourself, there are many days where I'll show up and be like, I just feel like crap. I don't even have anything to say to you today. You know, what this is going on. I'm frustrated. I'm this, I'm that. So that makes it easier because I don't feel like I have to show up and pretend to be somebody else or pretend that I'm happy all the time. In fact, last year at this time, I was going through a really hard time in my life. And so when I was showing up on social media, it was to talk about the amount of anxiety I was having and how I was trying to handle it and deal with it. And I was going to the doctor. And so I was sharing all that stuff. So I was
Yeah.
still just sharing my life
Yeah.
and
I think is
whatever
what's
that looks
helped you
like
so much.
from day to day.
Yeah. That's what
Yeah.
that's what they want to hear, right? Because
Yeah.
if anybody's
And it
showing up
helped
every,
me. You know what? It helped me
like an outlet for
so
to let it
much.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And to get the feedback that I was getting from people that were just so incredibly supportive.
Right.
Um, yeah, it was
Then you
awesome.
realize you've got such a bigger audience than friends and family of that are there and
Yeah,
got your back
yeah,
and
yeah,
all that,
yeah. Yep,
right? Yeah.
sure.
I think it's important. Well, I want to leave off with this. What is one tip that you would give to the woman over 50 who's not a big social media, guru, but she's like, I'm interested in that. What would be a tip that you would give them to, get up and show up or, just start messy?
Well, I always tell them to start messy. I mean, there's no way of getting around the middle,
Yeah.
right? So if it's something you want to do, you have to start. B, you have to know that there is a messy middle and that nobody gets off scot-free. Like you're never going to wake up and be like, today's the day I'm going to feel confident and I'm just going to do it and everything's going to be great.
No.
That's never going to happen. So you have to get it in your head that it's going to have to be something that you make yourself do. Part of the growth is that you are going to be uncomfortable. And like I said earlier, once you realize you didn't die while you were doing it, then it just makes it a little bit easier. But, there is nobody on earth that you would see as successful, whether it's a celebrity, an athlete, whatever it is, they put the reps in. They didn't get to where they are by just, showing
Waking
up
up one day.
occasionally.
Yeah.
They showed up for themselves every single day until they got, to where they wanted to be.
Absolutely.
But you don't have to do social media if that is not your thing. You can certainly, there's a million ways still
To
of,
build business.
yeah, you can host events, you can do expos, you can do, sips and shops and whatever you want to do. But ultimately, if you really want to serve another woman, if you really have to remember what's on the other side of what it is you're trying to do. And the goal, at least the goal for me, was always to get the makeup on a woman because I know what it's going to mean to her once you do. So you just kind of have to go in it with a thinking of serving someone else or helping somebody else, and that'll help them get over that fear.
Yeah. I think that's great advice, Colette. This is fantastic. We should do this like every quarter.
I would love it.
Pop in and see where you're at. Well, where do people find you the most? Is it on Instagram? Do you do TikTok, Facebook, or mostly Instagram?
Yeah, I do have a larger audience on TikTok, but it's a different world over there. I don't feel like I don't feel like my people are over there necessarily. So I do tend to live on Instagram. It's always been where I feel most comfortable.
Yeah.
It seems to be where the majority of my audience is. So just Colette Van Pamel is my Instagram handle. And I am working on a website. So
You'll be able to find her through Google soon.
Yeah. So any woman who is struggling to find makeup that actually works on mature skin, reach out. I am happy to help.
Yeah, I think the color match is amazing. You can just, fill out a form, go through the steps, take a selfie, send it to Colette.
That's really what's so cool about Saint is that there's no other store that's going to call you. I'm not going to call them, but is going to reach out to you to find out if your foundation colors worked for you or if you needed something. Nobody else is doing that, right?
Yeah.
So when you are working with a Saint artist, they are essentially your little pocket makeup artist, to help you completely along the way that you're not going to get if you go to Sephora, Ulta, or Beauty Counter, any of those, department store type things. You don't get that. You really do get a very personal touch. You get colors that are specific to your skin. We are trained to do that. So yeah, it's an added benefit.
Yeah,
to the beauty of makeup.
Fun. Yeah. Well, this was perfect, Colette. I'll make sure to put the spelling of your social in here as well so that people can find you. And until next time, you guys, this is Amber, your host of Behind Her Boom podcast. We'll see you on the next episode. And thank you, Colette, for joining us on the show. Bye, guys.
Thank you.